Some people believe the most dangerous things in the world are hidden in dark forests, abandoned buildings, or locked rooms. I learned the hard way that sometimes the most terrifying thing isn't hiding somewhere remote. Sometimes it's sitting right next to you at work. This is a true story about a man I worked with for over a year. A man everyone trusted. A man who drove us to job sites every single day. And a night that proved something was deeply, permanently wrong with him. At the time, I was working as a field engineer for a telecom company in the United States. My job required frequent travel to remote cell towers, maintenance, testing, inspections. It was the kind of work where you spent long hours on the road, often with the same small group of people every day. Our company assigned drivers to each team. Nothing unusual about that. Our driver, however, was different. He was older than most of us, former military, quiet, physically fit for his age. He carried himself with confidence, almost pride. At first, I respected him. Everyone did. But small things started to feel off. He would get irritated when someone sat in certain seats inside our shared office space. Not because they were reserved, there was no assigned seating, but because, according to him, someone else was already sitting there. The strange part? There was never anyone there. When we asked him who he meant, he'd pause, stare at the empty space, and then say something like, "Never mind, just don't sit there." At first, we laughed it off. Then it started happening more often. Whenever I entered his room to talk to our supervisor, the driver would suddenly become uncomfortable. He'd tell me to leave, sometimes politely, sometimes sharply. "You shouldn't be here," he'd say. When I asked why, he'd respond, "It's crowded." The room would be empty. I brought this up to the team lead more than once. He shrugged it off, said the guy was older, maybe eccentric, maybe dealing with stress from his military past. I wanted to believe that until the day I was assigned to work with him alone. One morning, my usual driver called in sick. Management told me I'd be riding with a former military driver instead. The drive was silent, no radio, no small talk. Finally, I asked him directly why he behaved so strangely around people. I told him his comments made others uncomfortable. He didn't get angry. Instead, he smiled. Not warmly, not jokingly, just calmly. He told me there were others around him most of the time, that they didn't like being ignored, and that they didn't like people mocking them. I laughed, assuming he was messing with me. That's when he said, "You won't laugh once you see proof." That evening, after work, he came to my room and asked me for a notebook and a pen. I handed them over. He sat at the table, closed his eyes, and began drawing. Long, jagged vertical lines, over and over, perfectly aligned despite his eyes being shut. He continued for several minutes without stopping. Then he slid the notebook toward me and started describing personal details about my life. Not vague things, specific things, my street layout, the color of my front door, a conversation I'd had years earlier, or one I'd never shared at work. I asked him how he knew. He said, "I'm not the one who knows." That night, I didn't sleep. A few days later, late at night, there was a knock on my door. It was him. At first, I didn't recognize his face. His forehead was massively swollen. His neck bulged unnaturally as if something were pushing from beneath the skin. One shoulder hung lower than the other, twisted at an impossible angle. He looked like he was suffering from a severe medical emergency. I panicked. I reached for my phone to call for help. He grabbed my wrist, hard, and shook his head. "No," he whispered. Others gathered in the hallway. Everyone saw him. Everyone was horrified. Within minutes, he was taken back to his room. 15 minutes later, there was another knock. I opened the door. He was completely normal. No swelling, no distortion, no pain, perfectly fine. I know what swelling looks like. It doesn't disappear in 15 minutes. That was the moment I stopped trying to explain things rationally. He told me the changes weren't an illness. He said they weren't always visible, only when they were upset. He claimed that 3 distinct presences shared his body at different times, each with different personalities, each with different ways of interacting. He said if he didn't keep them occupied, they would occupy him. I didn't argue anymore. I didn't joke. I just listened. After that night, nothing overtly strange happened again, but the tension never left. He stopped talking about it entirely. Anytime I tried to ask questions, he shut me down immediately. Eventually, our assignments changed. I no longer worked with him. Years have passed since then. I've worked with hundreds of people since, but I've never forgotten him. Because whatever was happening to that man was real enough to leave physical marks, and real enough to scare everyone who witnessed it. If this story disturbed you, you're not alone. Comment yes if you believe there are things we still don't understand about the human mind. And if you want part 2 with more true, unexplained workplace horror stories, let me know below. Because sometimes the scariest stories don't come from monsters. They come from the people we trust every day.